Hi again, Mark here from talkingbass.net. This is the latest in the Music Theory for Bass series, and we're going to be covering one of the most important steps in learning harmony and music theory, the topic of chords within a major key or major scale. Remember, if you find any of this subject a little too advanced, just go back over the previous lessons in the series. They're all available at the Talking Bass video YouTube channel and also at talkingbass.net, along with a load of other bass lessons and articles on all the other areas of bass playing. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll be informed of new lesson releases every week, and if you subscribe to talkingbass.net, you can download my scale reference manual for free. That's got loads and loads and loads of things for you to practice. Okay, so chords within a key. Now this is one of those areas of music theory that was like a complete epiphany for me. The minute I was shown how to create chords in a key, it was like a light bulb turned on in my head and loads of different things all started to make sense. It's a really simple theory and very easy to grasp, but if you aren't shown this stuff, you sometimes don't stumble upon it yourself. Because bass guitar isn't primarily a chordal instrument, we tend to think more in terms of these low-pitched melodies we call bass lines, and we don't spend much time taking notice of how those chords were put in a particular order, or why a chord is a D minor and not a D major. Now, you might have wondered at some point what type of chord can be played over a particular bass note in a certain key. Let's say that you've got a little riff or bass line and we're in the key of C major. You've got a C note and you wonder what type of chord the guitarist or keyboard player can play over that note. Now, the most obvious answer would be a C major or a C major 7 because we're in C major. And that's cool, that'd work. But then you play an E, an F or a G. What chords could you build over those notes? Well, you could experiment and you could just see what works, but it would be much easier to know that E minor, F major and G7 would be the most diatonically correct or in-key notes that chords that you could choose. So let's have a look at how we create chords in a key. Now, in a major key, we use the major scale as our musical palette. So let's take a look at the good old C major scale again. We'll play it here at the 8th fret on the E string. Now, because we've already looked at chord construction, we now know that chords are built from stacking thirds, and the combination of thirds we use determines the type of chord. So a C major is a major third and a minor third. A C minor is a minor third and then a major third. Now, if you didn't know this, then make sure that you go over the previous chord construction lessons. So now let's look at the C major scale, and we'll build thirds from a C root note, but only using the notes of the C major scale. We can move up thirds simply by skipping a note. So if we have a C, and then we move up a third, 1, 2, 3, or just skip the D, that gives us an E, or a major third. If we move up another third, or skip a note, 1, 2, 3, it gives us a G, which gives us a perfect fifth from the root, and because we know that a major third and a perfect fifth form a major triad, that means that that C chord there, C, E, G, is a C major chord. So the chord built from a C, or scale degree number 1 in a major scale, is a major chord, in this case C major. Okay? Now let's try building a chord from the second degree of the major scale. In this case, in the C major scale, it'll be a D. So if we still use the notes of a C major scale, we've got D, and then we skip a note to an F, then skip another note, and we get to an A. That gives us a root, a minor third, and a perfect fifth, which is a minor triad. So that's D, F, A, the D minor chord. So chord 1 was a major, C, C major. And now chord 2, D minor. Okay? So let's try another from the next note in C major, an E. So if we take an E, and then we skip a note in the C major scale, we get to a G, and then we skip another note, we get up to a B. So we've got E, G, B. That's a minor third, root note, a minor third, and a perfect fifth, which is a minor chord. So chord 3 in the major scale is a minor chord, in this case E minor. So far now we've got, in the key of C major, we've got C major, D minor, and now E minor. So chord 1 is major, chord 2 is minor, and chord 3 is minor. Now we can apply this process to every scale degree and we end up with a sequence of chords. We refer to these chords in a key by number and they're often written as Roman numerals. So chord 1 is major, chord 2 is minor, chord 3 is minor, chord 4 is major, chord 5 is major, chord 6 is minor and chord 7 is diminished in a major key. So an easy way to remember that is chords 1, 4 and 5 are major, chords 2, 3 and 6 are minor, and chord 7 is the odd one out, that's diminished. Okay? So in the key of C, chord 1, C major, chord 2 would be D minor, chord 3 is E minor, chord 4 is F major, chord 5 is G major, chord 6 is A minor, and chord 7 is diminished. And then we're back to chord 1, C major. Okay? So let's use the arpeggios that we learned in our chord construction lessons to play through these chords from each degree of the C major scale. We'll start each arpeggio from the A string, so have a quick recap on the major scale along one string. So in the C major that would be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And we'll play these arpeggios along with the backing track, okay? C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and back to C. Okay? So now let's look at some basic chord progressions using these chords. Now if you remember the numbering system that we have for these chords and we use the Roman numerals, we have this first chord progression will be a 1, 6, 2, 5 progression, which in C will be C major, A minor, which is chord 6, D minor, chord 2, and G major, which is chord 5. Okay? So along with the backing track, we'll play through the arpeggios. Okay? C major, A minor, D minor, G major, chord 1, chord 6, chord 2, chord 5. Okay, so now let's have a look at another chord progression using chords 1, 3, 4 and 5. So in the key of C major, that'll be C or C major, which is chord 1, E minor, which is chord 3, F major, which is chord 4, and G major, which is chord 5. We'll play them along with the backing track again using arpeggios, and the first time round I'll use arpeggios all starting on the A string, and then the second time round I'll use arpeggios in the lower half of the neck using open strings. Okay? C major, E minor, F major, G major, E minor, F major, G major, back to C. Okay? So you can see that this opens up a whole load of possibilities for writing music, because now I can start to mess around with different chords in a certain key and know that they'll always work. So if I'm in the key of C major, I know that I can play C major, B diminished, E minor, A minor, D minor, G major, C, and I know that they'll all be fine because I'm in the key of C major and I know what chords are in that key. Now of course there's more to creating chord progressions than just picking random chords from within a key and placing them together. We call the subject that deals with how we put these chords together and how they react the study of harmony, and we'll be learning more about that each week. So now we've learned the triads within a major key, we can add another stack of thirds and build seventh chords within a key. So as before, we're in the key of C major, let's start with a C, then we skip a note and we get to an E, then we skip another note, we get to a G, skip another note, we get to a B. Now that's a major seventh, from C, which when we add to the major triad gives us a C major 7 chord. Okay, so that means that chord number 1 in C major, when voiced as a 7th chord, is a C major 7 chord. So as we did before, now let's build another chord from the 2nd degree of the scale. So this time we're going to build a 7th chord from the D in C major. So we have a D, then we skip a note and we get to the F, skip another note, we get to the A, which is the minor triad that we had before, but then we add another third, skip a note, we get to a C. Now a C is a minor 7th away from the D, add that to the minor triad, we have a minor 7 chord. So chord number 2, when voiced as a 7th chord in a major scale, is a minor 7 chord, and in this case a D minor 7. So just as we did with the triads, we get another sequence of chords going through a major scale or major key, and that is chord 1 is major 7, chord 2 is a minor 7, chord 3 is a minor 7, chord 4 is a major 7, chord 5 is a dominant 7, chord 6 is a minor 7, and chord 7 is a minor 7 flat 5, or half diminished chord. So in the key of C major, those chords will be chord 1, C major 7, chord 2, D minor 7, chord 3, E minor 7, chord 4, F major 7, chord 5, G7, chord 6, A minor 7, and chord 7, B minor 7 flat 5, and then we're back round. Okay, so okay. Now you'll notice that the G7 or dominant 7 is built on the 5th degree, and from our scale degrees lesson we know that the 5th degree is called the dominant, and this is where the dominant 7 chord gets its name from. Chord 5 is the only dominant 7 chord in the major key. Chords 1 and 4 are both major 7. So as before, let's play these arpeggios through these 7th chords in C major with the backing track, all starting from root notes on the A string. And if you need the music, the sheet music or the tablature for any of these exercises or any of the lesson material at all, there's a link below in the information, and it's all available to download over at talkingbass.net. Okay? So C major 7. D minor 7. E minor 7. F major 7. G7. A minor 7. B minor 7 flat 5, and back to C. As with memorising the triads in a key, chords 1 and 4 are major, so major 7, chords 2 and 6 are minor 7s, chords 5 and 7 are the odd chords, 5 being the dominant 7 as we just mentioned, and chord 7 being the minor 7 flat 5. So think of 5 and 7 as being the odd ones out, with the others being either major or minor, major 7 or minor 7 that is. So now let's try playing through those same chord progressions that we played through with the triads, but we'll use the 7th chords for a different sound. So first we have the 1, 6, 2, 5 progression, which in C is C major 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, and G7. So the next chord progression will be chords 1, 3, 4, 5, which in C major is C major 7, E minor 7, F major 7, and G7. Okay? C major 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, So we can perform this building of chords in the key with all the different extensions and added notes, just picking out notes diatonically from the parent major scale. Each chord has a unique set of scale degrees, and so they all have varying relationships. For instance, chord 1, the triad, has scale degrees 1, 3 and 5, which are fairly consonant and lacking in tension and give that home feeling. Chord 2, triad, has scale degrees 2, 4 and 6, which all want to lead back to other degrees, and this provides a certain amount of tension and gives a feeling of movement and direction towards another chord. We use this feeling in creating chord progressions, and it's a reason that we call a progression a progression. We're progressing from one chord to another in more than just names. It's this actual feeling of tension and release in the scale degrees that provides a sense of direction. Just as we've built chords from each scale degree, we can also build separate scales from each scale degree, which gives rise to the ever popular modes that you've probably heard so much about, and we'll be covering those shortly. So now that you know how to relate these arpeggios to chords and chord progressions, it's worth experimenting and trying to generate a little bit more interest and musical material in your bass lines over these chord progressions using the notes of the arpeggios or chord tones. So I'll just demonstrate a bass line working through the chord progression that we used before of 1, 6, 2, 5, which in the key of C major will be C major 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, G7, and I'll use the arpeggios or chord tones of each chord to weave a line through these chords and gain a little more interest. Okay? So just to recap, play through the triads and the 7th arpeggios within a major key and try them in various different keys. Don't just stick to C major. Once you've memorised the sequence, try picking out other notes in the key yourself and see what other chords you can come up with. There are actually some fairly exotic chords within a major key, even though a major scale isn't actually seen as being particularly exotic. For instance, if you extend a chord 4, you end up with a major 7 sharp 11 chord, and chord 3 extends to a minor 7 flat 9 chord. Next lesson, we'll be looking at chords within a minor key. So as I mentioned earlier, subscribe to the YouTube channel and talkingbass.net to get all the updates, and you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook too. Just look for the links on the websites. Okay, see you later.